Hi! My name is Jenalyn Dulin from BPE41 and I'm going to report or discuss about the Asian education. So before we start, let us define what is education. So what is education? Education is the process of facilitating learning or the acquisition of knowledge, skills, values, beliefs, and habits. Also, education can be taught as the transmission of the values and accumulated knowledge of a society. So let's discuss the Asian education. Asian education has four foundations. The first one is the primitive. In primitive education, life was very simple. Their means of livelihood were hunting and gathering wild fruits and vegetables. They lived in crude hands. Organization was tribal and usually headed by the oldest or wisest among members. There was no reading or writing and the information was transmitted through the word of mouth, songs, gestures, ceremonial rites, and the like. So we have three aims of primitive education. The first one is the security and survival from danger that could be inflicted by natural phenomena like typhoons, floods, earthquakes, and fires. And wild and poisonous animals and reptiles like tigers, lions, snakes, and rats, also inflicted by the evil spirits, hunger because of scarcity of food, and other tribes which were hostile to them. So the next aims in primitive education is the conformity. Conformity is the interest of one which he or she was sacrificed to the interest of the group. And then the last one is the preservation and transmission of traditions. In preservation and transmission of traditions, it is the ways they were doing things were the best and they want to preserve it and be transmitted to the incoming generation. Vocational and religious are types of education in primitive. So when we say vocational, it is like hunting or constructing a hut. And in religious, it is learning how you participate in ritualistic practices to please or appease the unseen spirit. Agencies of education. The family was the center of practical training. Father taught the boys duties of securing life, while mother instructed the girls in household management, and tribe elders acted as priests. In agencies of education, we have home and environment. Home is always the center of learning, especially for the young. And environment, for instance, if one happened to step on the thorn and got hurt, he now became not to step on the thorn. Financing. There was no financing involved because there was no teacher to pay, no learning materials to buy, and no schools to construct because education in primitive was strictly informal. Next foundation of education is the Oriental. The aims of Oriental education is to impress traditional ideas and culture in order to maintain and perpetuate the long-established social order. The Oriental education in China is to preserve and perpetuate the ancestral tradition, in India to preserve the caste system, and in Egypt to preserve religious tradition. The types of Oriental education is moral training and theoretical training. So in moral training, it is a training in customs, duties, and polite behavior, while in theoretical training, it is a training in language and literature. Agency in Oriental, home as the center for most ethical and social training. Others are pagoda, temple, and covered sheds. The organization is the elementary and high school levels, and the content is imitation and memorization. It was taken mostly from the teachings of philosophical masters like Confucius, Mencius, and Lao Tzu. Confucianism and Taoism teach the ethical life and love of nature respectively. The Chinese have given us filial piety, close family ties, respect for elders, selfless and honest service in the government, civil service, the golden rule, reverence for teachers, scholarship, and the earliest form of foundation for all or democratic education. Chinese ethical education is the forerunner of our present-day character education, or the GMRC and values education in our schools. In Japan, its Asian educational activities were patterned mostly from the Chinese. The ethical teaching of Confucianism and the religious beliefs of Zen Buddhism were assimilated into the Japanese way of life. Though it developed its own religion called Shintoism, educational ideas are dominantly Chinese. The Japanese ideal is the warrior with his samurai ethic of respect for authority, determination, and hard work. Unlike the Japanese opened themselves to foreign influences and made foreign ideas into what are uniquely Japanese. Hindu education is characterized by deep spirituality and rigid social stratification, or the caste system. Hinduism is a spiritual way of life tied to the rigid caste system. The highest class receive the highest or complete education, while the Sudras and the untouchable receive the at least or no education at all. The ancients were educated for the ideal nirvana based on the Vedas, and so their education developed along the lines of the religion and not in the direction of science, art, and the practical aspects of life. Teaching was done orally by the master called Guru, including their great epics, the Mahabharata and Ramayana, which contain the Bhagavad Gita. If the basic concept of education is the civilization and the unity of the people, then ancient Egypt could be recognized as the oldest civilization in history. The Egyptians already showed the evidence of skilled labor, craftsmen, knowledge of practical arts and sciences, and through apprenticeship programs. They already possess a system of writing called hieroglyphics and originated the modern paper from papyrus, which grows abundantly along the Nile River. The Egyptian practical education is perhaps the origin of the present-day vocational education in our schools. They were very much ahead of their time, knowledgeable in arithmetic, algebra, trigonometry, astronomy, medicine, chemistry, and other practical sciences. The third foundation is the Greek education. The aims of Greek education is to promote the individual success and welfare through the harmonious development of the various aspects of human personality. Ancient Greek education could be described in the two leading states, the Sparta and the Athens. The Greek education of Spartan is to develop a good soldier in each citizen, while in Athenian is to perfect man for individual excellence needed for public usefulness. Types of Greek education. For Spartan, it is the military and physical training, and for Athenian, it is a liberal education. The methods for Spartan is the competition and rivalry, and for Athenian is the principle of individuality. Sparta was basically a military socialistic state, and so it stressed military education. Its aim was to prepare the boys for citizenship and military service, and the girls for family life as healthy wives and mothers. In brief, Spartan education was for the state and not for the individual. The Paedonomus took care of the early military training and physical training of the young Spartan until he becomes a military recruit and eventually a real soldier. Spartan military education is the forerunner of military training in our schools. Athens was a democratic state and stressed liberal education. Education for the gentleman, charming in person, and graceful in manners. Education was a family prerogative. For 7 years, the home took care of the first child's education. At 7, the boy was entrusted to the pedagogus, a learned slave. At 14, his education was over. The boy could then go to the palaestra, which was the public gymnasium for his physical training. There were other schools and teachers, Kitaris or the teacher of music, the grammatis, teacher of letters, and the paidotribe, the teacher of gymnastics. The last foundation is the Roman education. Ancient Rome made its lasting impact on Christianity, the Western world, and on the whole human civilization. The history and education can be divided into the Republic and the Empire, or into the pure Roman and Graeco-Roman. The aims of Roman education is to educate the Roman youth for realizing the national ideas. Early Romans, it is called the verbonus, or the good man in speaking and learning. And in later Romans, it is the linguistic facility. The contents in Roman education are liberal arts, rhetoric, dialectic, geometry, music, professional law, medicine, and architecture. The methods of elementary are memorization and imitation, while in secondary, it is a literary exercises, intensive drills of speech and grammar. And that's all for today. Again, I am Jenaline, and if you have questions or suggestions, please drop it down below the comment section.